People watching from home, people here at Churchill, please give a warm Independent Venue Week welcome to Marbin!
Thank you so much. All right. Moving right along. This next song is called That Ain't Kava. Do you guys know what kava is? Yeah, let me tell you about kava. First of all, I gotta tell you about where this thing happened, where this story took place. On our last tour in Florida. We were in Hollywood, Florida. Do you guys ever hear of the term super babies? Hippies in the 60s wanted to make super babies by giving pregnant women and toddlers LSD. They thought it would raise consciousness. It didn't really do that. But in Florida, an unofficial similar experiment was conducted in the 80s with cocaine. And the result was a bunch of weirdos. And they were all at our show. Now, we were playing a place called Twisted Root Kava Bar, Kava with a K. I was unaware of what Kava is. I thought we were going to a sparkling white wine bar. But apparently Kava is this pepper root from South America that people drink. And they tell you, like, it's just like a cross between beer and weed, man. It's neither of those things, but it does make your face numb. And it's not good tasting. But there are a lot of kava bars, and we were playing one. And we have a fan that lives in Florida, and I saw him come into the venue. And I knew this is going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting night. His name is Wild Man. He has a big beard. He took some Skype lessons with me, and they were very strange. And he's oddly religious. I'm not sure which religion, but I'm from Israel and I speak Hebrew, and he speaks to me in Hebrew words that he does not understand, and they are always out of context, and it's very strange. So I'm sitting with him at a table trying to make some small talk before the show, and I just ask him questions. I'm like, hey man, do you like kava? And he's sitting there with 2 empty cups, and he goes, no. I don't drink anything that alters my consciousness. I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you drink coffee? He goes, no coffee. I'm like, okay. So I just go away. And I go to get ready for the show. There's a room behind the stage where only artists and staff can go. And I'm in that room getting my guitar. And I see Wild Man in there. He's not supposed to be there. And he has his face to the wall and his back to me. And he's like, going kind of like this, holding his cups, and I'm like, is this guy praying? What is going on? Is that the direction of Mecca? I'm very confused. And then he looks behind his shoulder, looks at me, and he goes, don't mind me. I'm like, okay. So I take my guitar, and I go back on stage, and I'm tuning up, trying to start the show. And I see the manager running out of that back room, and he goes to the bartender, and he's whispering in his ear. And then they both go to the venue owner that booked us, and they whisper in his ear. And then everybody runs to Wild Man, and they're grabbing him by the shirt. It's like, you gotta go, man. And they're pulling him out of the venue. I'm like, am I witnessing a freedom of religion debate? What is going on? It's so bizarre. And they kick him out, and he's just yelling. He's like, I didn't know you're not supposed to do that here. And they're like pulling him out and throwing him out into the street. And then the manager comes back to me, and he goes, Danny, you guys have some weird fucking fans. And I'm like, why? And he's pointing at his table, at his cup, and he goes, that ain't kava. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, I mean, Wild Man over there went into the back room, peed in 2 cups, sat down at the table, and drank his own piss. And I just go, no. And he goes, uh-huh. And I turn to Everett, and I run and tell him, and Everett goes, no. And I go, uh-huh. And then we both tell John, and John goes, yeah. And we're all very confused for the rest of the night. Just confused, because he seemed like a reasonable Wild Man, you know? And the next day, we're sleeping over at the owner's mansion, and we wake up and we go sit by the pool, and I realize I have this dude's number because he took some Skype lessons with me. And I'm about to dial him, and John jumps up and he goes, don't do it, man. I'm like, why? And he goes, because I don't want an explanation to ruin such a beautiful story. And I'm like, I can't leave it like this. The truth is out there, right? Boo, 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 boo. I'm like, we gotta find out what happened. So I dial him, and I put him on speaker, and he picks up the phone. And he goes, hello? And I go, hello? And then he goes, Danny, I got kicked out last night. I'm like, I noticed. What happened? And he goes, did you ever hear of urinotherapy? I'm like, no. He goes, I drink my own piss. And I'm like, no. And he goes like, uh-huh. And then he goes, did you ever drink your piss? I'm like, no, I can't say that I have. And he goes, did you ever drink anybody else's? I'm like, I don't think so. And he goes, liar. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, you were in your mother's uterus, you drank her piss. I'm like, I don't think that works that way. And then he keeps doubling down. He goes, did you ever hear of Chris Reeve? Superman? And he goes, yeah, he would have walked if he drank his own piss. I'm like, what? He goes, there's 100th of a stem cell in each cup of piss. I'm like, how much piss are you drinking? He's like, all of it. I'm like, what do you mean all of it? You just had water once and you're just recycling? He's like, basically. I'm like, whoa. And then he sends me an hour YouTube lecture about piss drinking by like Dr. Tinkle or something. And it's very convincing. I mean, the dude has a suit and everything, you know, and he's talking. And I'm like just half watching a YouTube lecture, half talking to a guy trying to convince me to drink my piss. And he finishes with telling me that the modern day pharaohs are trying to keep global awareness down and the secrets of self-healing concealed. So I'm here to let you guys, to let your pee-pee go. This is That Ain't Kava. Thank you so much. This next song is called Scissors. You guys want to hear one last story? All right. Well, we played 2 cruises for opening for the band Yes. It was Yes's Cruise, the famous prog rock band. It was a bunch of famous prog rock bands and us. And after the first cruise, I vowed a vow to the moon and stars that I would never, ever, ever, ever come back on a cruise without a shitload of weed. Ever. Because without weed, that shit was lame. And in February, there was cruise number 2. And before that, I stocked up on a lot of gummies. A lot of gummies. And I had a plan for the gummies in the vape pen. I was going to smuggle them past the all-knowing, omnipotent TSA by creating a cavity in this amplifier right here and sneaking it cunningly onto the ship. I shared that plan with our sound guy the day before the cruise in Stuart, Florida. And he looked at me and he went, "Don't do that, man." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Don't you think it's gonna look real strange in the X-ray machine to have like tubes and capacitors and gummies?" I was like, "This man is a fucking genius. Tell me more," right? And he started, and I was like, what would you do? And he goes, "Well, I'd buy some normal gummies and put them by the weed gummies. And I'd buy some normal pens and throw them by the weed pen. So it looks right." I was like, smart as fuck. I would never think of that. So I just throw everything in my suitcase, not worrying about it. I was like, all right, it's gonna be great. So we go, next day comes, and now we go on the boat, and we're the first band playing, so we have to carry all of our gear physically onto the boat and give our suitcases to the porters to carry to our room. And they do run my amp through the X-ray machine, and I'm very relieved that there's no gummies in there. And we play a show, high energy, great crowds, big theater. And we're all high from the show, just like going to our rooms. Let's change clothes, go to dinner, eat some gummies. It's going to be great. And we get to the rooms, and all the suitcases, the luggage is right out there, except for one bag. My bag. And I start having this heart race go. My heart rate starts racing, like pop, 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 right? And my palms are getting sweaty. And I'm reminded of the document I signed. When I signed the contract, there was one page I remember about like bringing narcotics on the boat. And it was in big, bold letters. I don't remember the wording, but I remember the gist. We're gonna melt your parents, eat your children, burn your house down. I was like, yep, let's do all that. And I'm just like, our careers are finished. We're done. It's gonna be awful. I ruined everything for everybody. It takes me 3 full hours to go down to guest services because I'm seriously considering just letting them have my luggage with all my belongings. Just keep it, not claiming it. And 3 hours later, I just take a breath. I'm like, it's time to man up and face this crisis head on. So I grab a bandmate by the hand. I'm like, you're coming with me. And I go down to guest services. And I, go to the guy. I'm like, I'm in room 602. I never received my luggage. There must have been some problem, some misunderstanding. And he's clicking on his computer. He goes, that's strange. Everything was delivered. Then he looks to his left, and he goes, is this your suitcase? And it's my suitcase. And I go, yes. And then I see there's a piece of tape on it. It says, call security, all caps. And I'm just like, oh, no, right? And he goes, hold on, sir. And he calls security. And these 2 guards come, right? And they're putting on gloves. And one is kneeling. And they're unzipping my suitcase, right? And they're looking up at me. And he goes, is this your luggage, sir? And I'm like, yes, right? And he opens it up and he goes, do you have weapons? Like, no. And he pulls out scissors from my shaving kit and he measures them against 2 fingers. And he goes, oh, have a great cruise. These are fine. And I'm running through the boat like, scissors! And I reach into my bag and eat a fistful of gummies, blah, 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 and become high as fuck. And the rest of the cruise was amazing. And I took the sticker. They put a second sticker on my suitcase that said scissors and had a painting of him. And I posted it right on my amp forever. So this is Scissors. Thank you so much. We're going to play one last song for you guys. This last one is called Radio School. It's on our latest album. Right here, we have a merch table, we have shirts, we have vinyl, we have CDs, we have books with transcriptions of the music for the music readers. And for those of you at home, we have marbinmusic.bandcamp.com, which has all that stuff. And this last one is Radio School. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you so much. We are Marbin. We're going to be right here at our merch table. We do take cards. Come talk to us for all your merch needs. So we're doing an interview. That's how it works now? All right, cool. Usually that's when we get off, but we're going to do it different. Yeah, it's been real. Oh, nice. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Guess I can play some segue music. Thank you. All right.
You want to use that mic? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If any of you have the thought of leaving before you're buying merch now, I will hunt you down.
Make sure you buy all the merch so that Stanley, Idaho can't get any.
That's correct. Get comfortable.
Mine will be a lower chair. I am an appreciator of music as a player.
I will tower over you.
As you should. First off, thanks for being here. Man, what an incredible night.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We enjoyed everything about it. From the sparkling water of the green room to the tacos of the front room.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did it live up to your expectations as you posted on Facebook earlier today?
This is a sort of mecca. Yeah, you guys really built it.
So those of you who don't follow Marbin, although there's probably only one of you here because you have over 250,000 followers.
Yeah, on Facebook.
That every place that they've gone on this tour has some claim to jazz fame, according to the post. And so we're also in that, thanks to...
Yeah, I actually did not post something like that about Portland or Tacoma. I was like, those are cesspools, but the rest of the spots we stopped are cultural meccas. Here, Prosser,
Yeah.
But in a way, it's really true. It's like the kind of people we see in small towns tend to be there's good people everywhere, but there's a whole lot of bad ones in those cities.
So you guys got your start in 2009, and you've put out 9 albums. Is that right? Since then?
No, we put
How many?
I lost count.
25?
No,
30?
it's like 12, I think.
Yeah.
12. Yeah.
And is every album in the book of music?
In the book of sheet music is every quartet album we've released.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So during guitar album, saxophone Danny, who's not here, made like a saxophone focused album. We have those in double CD. It's called 10 Years in the Sun, Russian Dolls, and we did have sheet music for them, but we didn't think it would fit the book.
Sure.
And then we did a gypsy jazz album, and it would just be weird to put like standards in, with all of our originals. So other than those 3, everything's in the book.
It's amazing to see it in
He wrote
form
it. He wrote it.
I have a lot of time in the van driving to sit with my laptop and transcribe the music.
So back to the start, like in 2009, how did you all meet up? Because Danny has moved, and
So-
Everett, did you move as well?
So I actually joined the band in 2018.
Okay.
I'm from Southern Illinois. The way I got linked up with the band was they were looking for a drummer during that summer of 2018, and I had just graduated Northern Illinois University. And they emailed me. We set up an audition, and the rest is kind of history. So,
Sweet.
Yeah. So John's been with us since 2015. Yeah.
So you and Danny
We met.
are the founding members.
Yes.
And how did you two meet?
And I'm the only surviving member. We met in Israel. We're both from Israel. I just graduated from college, music college, and he went to the army. We were both 21, I think, when we met, 2022, 2007. And yeah, we just had a connection, started writing music, moved to Chicago together, and then we had a string of rhythm section members till we settled on these guys.
Nice.
Yeah, very happy.
Well, you guys all play very effortlessly. Like watching you as someone who appreciates and loves music but doesn't play it, I'm in awe because it doesn't look like it's difficult.
It's hard on
And
the
yet
inside.
it's extremely hard to do what you all do.
Well,
Like how do you how do you do it?
I think music moves on a scale of effortless to impossible with not a lot in the middle. I mean,
And for songwriting, like when you were talking about some of the experiences like Wet Willie and It's Not Kava, like obviously not every song comes from everyday life, but it seems like your everyday life is pretty extraordinary based on those two particular stories.
we do get into some bad situations. I would say that the songs are just written as instrumental songs. When you look at a singer-songwriter, in one way it's amazing what they do. In another way, they're just such bummers because they're just depressed all the time and write about it. We're like liberated from that, so we get to just write what we think is cool, and that becomes our song, and then we attach them to the experiences later. So if something crazy happens, like I got a title for that story. So it's not. The songs aren't really inspired by the experience. The experiences in the song kind of happen in parallel, and then they're attached. And the story thing, we just really early on realized that some sort of verbal connection element in our show is necessary, and I just started doing it like a decade ago and never really stopped because I'll just tell people funny stuff that happened, and they kind of work, they work themselves out to be more and more kind of tight over time, the stories, and then we get rid of them and write a new album and tell new stories.
Nice. So with the new album, like how did that come together during the pandemic? Did you guys practice together? Like did you go into the studio together? Like how did that one work out?
We had been performing about half of this material before the pandemic, already working it out to record, and we had to put some of it on break and then come back and started touring it again when we could.
Yeah, I think right before Delta, there was like a sweet spot of touring again, and we played like a few tours, and then we were really tight with the music, and we just were able to go to the studio. Our studio experience is always very brief because we're pretty good. So that last record was, we were there for 2.5 days, and we just tracked it. We knew how to play all the songs, and it's always tricky in the studio to make a jazz solo happen because you're improvising. So what exactly do you keep? Which version of you improvising over the song is the ultimate version? It's kind of like the question, because every time I play a solo on any, I don't write anything down, so they're really different from each other. So we just took a few takes and selected the ones we liked best, and that was it.
So with that being the case, like how difficult was it for you, John, to make the book of the music?
Typically, I make the book after the album is recorded, and I just go back and transcribe it, but I'm sitting in a van with the guy that wrote the melodies. So I'd be lying if I said Danny didn't help. You know, hey Danny, what are these 30-second notes? What are these sextuplets? And he fills in the blanks for me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for celebrating Independent Venue Week with us here at Churchill and the beautiful music that you played.
Thank you. We would never miss such an important holiday.
Yes. Cool. And thanks you all for being
Thanks
here.
for coming.